What if the secret to having more was needing less? What if letting go wasn't weakness, but your greatest source of power? In a world that shouts hustle harder, this audiobook offers a quieter truth. You don't attract what you chase, you attract what you expect in silence. This is your invitation to stop gripping so tightly and start allowing. Detach to attract. You become what you quietly expect. Written and published by Book Library. Introduction. There comes a moment in every journey when the pushing just feels like too much. You've visualized. You've affirmed. You've done the journaling, the vision boards, the late-night talks with the stars. And still, what you want remains, just out of reach. That's when life gets quiet. Not because it's giving up on you, but because it's inviting you to listen deeper. This isn't about losing hope. It's about letting go of the grip. Because the truth is, we've all been taught to chase. We chase the dream. We chase the timing. We chase the feeling of finally having it. But chasing carries the energy of lack, of not yet. And here's the twist no one tells you. Sometimes, the only way to receive what you desire is to stop chasing it. This book was born from that very realization. That moment when trying harder doesn't work anymore. And what if, just what if, it was never about doing more, but about trusting more? In a world obsessed with control, letting go feels like rebellion. It feels reckless. But isn't it more exhausting to hold on to something so tightly that we end up strangling the very dream we love? Real manifestation doesn't scream. It doesn't beg or push or prove. It expects. Not with arrogance. With peace. Not with noise. With stillness. When you stop gripping so tightly, you show the universe, I already believe. I already know it's mine. That quiet confidence, that's the real magnetism. You become what you quietly expect isn't just a beautiful phrase, it's how life works. Not based on your loudest affirmations, but on the energy you carry when no one's watching. Your life isn't reflecting what you shout into the void. It's reflecting what your soul quietly believes is possible. This is where detachment comes in, not as disinterest, but as deep trust. It's not about walking away from your dream. It's about walking with it, lightly, confidently, faithfully. You're no longer begging for the outcome. You're embodying it. You're no longer hoping it might happen. You're becoming the version of you who calmly expects it. That's the energy that shifts things. That's when life starts to respond. Not because you forced it, but because you finally matched it. This book is your guide through that shift. We'll explore what it really means to detach. Not to give up, but to grow up spiritually and emotionally. You'll learn how to stop blocking your blessings with over-efforting. And you'll tap into the quiet power of expectation, steady, clear, unshakable. So if you've been feeling tired, if you've been wondering why your desires seem just out of reach, it's not because you're broken. It's not because the dream is wrong. Maybe, just maybe, you've been holding on too tightly to something that was always meant to come softly, naturally, into open hands. So breathe. Loosen your grip. Let go, not because you've given up, but because you finally trust. It's not about saying, I don't care. It's about saying, I know it's already mine. Because when you stop chasing, you start attracting. Chapter 1, Chasing Blocks, Trust Unlocks. The hidden trap of wanting too hard. Manifestation doesn't start with noise. It begins with a spark, a subtle nudge from within. You see something in your mind, feel a pull in your chest, and think, yes, that's for me. At first, it's electric. You feel powerful, connected, lit up by the idea that maybe, just maybe, you can shape your life with your energy. So you dive in. You set bold intentions. You write your goals. You visualize success, speak affirmations, and pour your heart into the dream. It feels alive for a while, but then the energy shifts. The desire that once felt light begins to weigh on you. You stop feeling aligned and start feeling anxious. It's no longer about becoming, it's about chasing. And the more you chase, the more it slips through your fingers. This is the paradox that catches so many dreamers off guard. The more desperately you want something, the harder it becomes to receive. Because what you focus on most isn't the dream, it's the absence of it. That shift from expecting to needing is subtle but powerful. And it's where many people unknowingly block the very thing they're trying to call in. See, the universe isn't responding to how badly you want it. It's responding to your state, your emotional signature. And desperation, even in its quietest form, sends out a frequency that says, I don't have it. I don't believe it's mine. You might be speaking the right words, doing all the rituals, taking the actions. But if your energy is shouting lack, the signal is scrambled. Here's the truth no one tells you loud enough. You don't attract what you hope for, you attract what you expect. Not with noise, not with hustle, but with calm, quiet, unshakable belief. And that belief only shows up when you let go of the need to control. Not letting go of the dream, that stays, but loosening your grip on how, when, and whether it happens exactly the way you planned. Letting go isn't weakness. It's emotional strength. It says, I trust the timing. I trust myself. I trust that if it's aligned, it will come, and if it doesn't, something better is on the way. That's what changes the game. The goal isn't to obsess. It's to become. Not to beg for your future, but to embody the version of you who knows it's already unfolding. The version who walks with quiet confidence, who no longer seeks signs because she is the sign, who no longer waits to feel worthy because she knows she always was. You don't have to prove yourself to life. You just have to stop blocking your own flow with fear and force. Think back to the time something beautiful showed up in your life unexpectedly. It wasn't when you were overthinking or panicking. It was when you were open, at peace, present. That's the energy that invites everything in. Detachment is that energy. Not giving up, but rising up. Not disconnecting from your dream, but reconnecting with your power. When you act from a place of grounded trust, your actions become magnetic. You don't chase, you choose. You don't ask, will it come? You say, I'm already living in alignment with it. And from that place, things begin to shift. Manifestation is not about begging the universe to listen. It's about becoming someone who no longer doubts she's heard. The paradox is this: when you stop trying so hard to get, you start naturally receiving. Not because you forced anything, but because you stopped fighting the flow. So pause for a moment. Feel your breath. Ask yourself, am I gripping too tight? Am I sending out faith or fear? And then remind yourself of this. You are allowed to want deeply, but you are also allowed to trust fully. Desire was never the problem. It's the fear underneath it that blocks the way. Remove the fear. Let go of the grip. And step into the version of you who quietly expects everything good to come. Because it will. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Book Library on YouTube. We bring you valuable audiobooks every week to expand your knowledge and enhance your personal growth. And give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2. The Silent Signal. Why Calm Belief Speaks Louder Than Loud Effort. There's a quiet force in this universe that's more powerful than pushing, louder than affirmations, and far more magnetic than one alone. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for attention. And you'll never find it flaunted on social media or performed through daily rituals. You can't bottle it. You can't fake it. But when it's there, you can feel it, steady, strong, undeniable. That force is quiet expectation. The deep, grounded knowing that what you desire isn't a maybe. It's already unfolding. Not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned with it. Quiet expectation doesn't need a spotlight. It hums underneath your decisions. It shapes your energy when no one is watching. It speaks in how you move, how you wait, and how you respond when things don't go your way. It's not something you perform. It's something you embody. Most people think manifestation is about doing more. More vision boards, more journaling, more mantras, more steps. But manifestation isn't a performance, it's a frequency. And frequency is set not by your words, but by your expectation. You could say, I'm ready for abundance 1,000 times. But if you quietly expect struggle, your life will echo that back. You could declare you want love. But if you deep down expect to be abandoned, your relationships will mirror that wound. That's because the universe doesn't react to your declarations. It responds to your energy. And your energy doesn't lie. Quiet expectation isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's not about forcing yourself to be positive. It's about becoming someone whose inner world is steady, even when the outer world is uncertain. It's about being rooted in a truth so deep, it doesn't need to be announced. You don't have to shout, I am worthy. You simply carry yourself like someone who already knows it. And that energy, that unshakable calm, is magnetic. Quiet expectation doesn't chase. It doesn't rush. It doesn't beg or bargain. It just holds its ground and attracts. But here's the thing, you can't fake this. You can't act as if and hope the universe falls for it. This isn't a trick, it's a transformation. It's not about what you say when you're inspired. It's about how you respond when you're challenged. It shows up when things get delayed. Do you panic? Or do you stay present? It shows up when the plan changes. Do you force control or trust the timing? Quiet expectation is built in those moments, when you choose calm over chaos, when you choose to believe, even when nothing has shown up yet, when you decide again and again to trust your worth rather than chase proof of it. Why is this so powerful? Because quiet expectation doesn't stir up resistance. It doesn't send mixed signals. It aligns your inner world with the outcome you desire so purely that there's no friction, only flow. You're not reaching from emptiness. You're receiving from alignment. That's when manifestation accelerates. Not when you obsess over timing, but when you stop needing to control it at all. You start to live like the version of you who already has it, not to manipulate the outcome, but because that's who you've become. To develop this kind of internal power, you have to start noticing your mental patterns. When things feel uncertain, what do you assume will happen? Disappointment? Or something better than expected? These quiet beliefs, the ones you never speak, are steering your life. So observe them. Not to judge, but to shift. Ask yourself, am I expecting life to surprise me with good, or to let me down again? Am I preparing for peace or bracing for pain? Most of these answers live beneath awareness. And that's why change begins with noticing. Because once you see what your inner voice expects, you can teach it something new. Not by force, but by gentle repetition, in how you treat yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you show up every day. Each time you honor your truth instead of seeking approval, you tell your system, I am enough. Each time you hold a boundary, follow your intuition, or let go of what no longer fits, you plant the seed of quiet expectation. It grows not in loud declarations, but in small, consistent alignment. And soon, you'll find something beautiful begins to happen. You stop trying to prove. You stop performing for love or success or belonging. You move with quiet power. You let go of timelines. You let people go without resentment. You walk in the belief that what's meant for you is already yours, and anything that walks away was never going to stay. This kind of trust doesn't come all at once. It's a choice, one you make every time fear shows up. You meet that fear not with force, but with faith. And when you do, life starts to flow. Synchronicities appear. Things fall into place. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped resisting. The truth is, manifestation doesn't need a megaphone. It needs clarity. You don't manifest through noise. You manifest through energetic coherence, the quiet, calm frequency of someone who already knows. It's done. It's mine. I'm ready. And that energy? That's what life listens to. Not the push. Not the pressure. Just the quiet, grounded certainty that you are already enough. Chapter 3. It was never about wanting. You receive what you're ready to hold. Most people move through life reaching for the things they want, thinking desire is the engine that pulls their dreams closer. They say things like, I want abundance, or I want love, hoping that if they want it hard enough, work long enough, or visualize deeply enough, it'll show up. But here's the truth. Wanting doesn't attract. Becoming does. Desire might spark the journey, but it's not what delivers the result. What truly determines what you receive is who you are when you're wanting. You don't get what you wish for. You get what your identity is wired to accept. It's not about what you say out loud. It's what your energy expects behind the scenes. And that energy is shaped by the story you believe about yourself. You could be doing all the right things, reading the books, following the routines, scripting your goals. But if beneath all that, you still carry the identity of someone who's not enough, you'll find a way to block what you're trying to call in. It won't be conscious, but it'll be consistent. You might finally meet someone who treats you well. But if you expect love to hurt, you'll sabotage the connection. You might earn more money than ever before. But if you believe deep down that wealth makes you unsafe, you'll unconsciously spend it away. Your external life can only stretch as far as your internal self-image allows. And this is where most manifestation advice falls short. They tell you to focus on the dream. Visualize it. Script it. Speak it into existence. But very few ask you to become the person who naturally lives that dream. Wanting is easy. Becoming, that's the real work. It's not about faking confidence or forcing change. It's about aligning your identity with the version of you who's already there. Ask yourself, if I already had the thing I desire, the love, the freedom, the success, who would I be? How would I think? How would I move through my day? How would I speak to myself? What would I expect when I walked into a room? That version of you, the one who already has it, isn't frantic. She's not trying to prove herself. She's not over-explaining or clinging or performing for validation. She's grounded. She's clear. She's certain, without needing to be loud. This is the identity shift that unlocks the manifestation. Because your reality isn't shaped by your dreams. It's shaped by what feels normal to you. And whatever feels normal is what you unconsciously protect and recreate over and over again. That's why real transformation happens when you stop asking how to get something and start becoming the one who naturally attracts it. It's not about pretending. It's about reminding yourself who you were before you were taught to doubt your worth. The version of you that expects abundance, that expects love, that expects peace. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. You'll know this shift is happening not when your life suddenly explodes with miracles, but when the things you used to dream about start feeling normal, familiar, like home. When love no longer feels like a reward you have to earn, but simply what you're open to. When wealth doesn't feel like a fantasy, but a natural state of ease. When peace doesn't feel like a vacation, but the foundation you live on. And all of this begins within. Identity work isn't about being someone you're not. It's about shedding the layers of who you were taught to be in survival. It's about letting go of the old scripts, the ones that told you to shrink, settle, or wait for permission. You don't need to wait anymore. You don't need to prove anymore. You don't need to earn your desires. You just need to become someone who believes they are safe to receive. Becoming this version of you won't always feel comfortable. There will be days when you want to crawl back into the familiar. But comfort isn't the same as alignment. And when it feels unfamiliar, it means you're stretching into something new. Don't confuse discomfort with danger. Sometimes that unease is your old identity resisting its release. And when you let it go, you make space. You make space for the self who doesn't chase, who doesn't overthink, who doesn't fear being seen, but simply is. You attract who you are, not who you perform to be, not who you hope to become someday, but who you quietly are beneath the noise, in your choices, your boundaries, and your beliefs. So the real question isn't, what do I want? It's, who am I being while I want it? Because once you become the version of you who expects, allows, and aligns, everything that matches that identity will begin to arrive. Effortlessly, clearly, powerfully. Chapter 4. Let go to let in. Why real power doesn't cling. To someone unfamiliar with inner work, the word detachment can sound cold, like apathy dressed up as wisdom. It feels like you're being asked to stop caring, to give up, to act like your dreams don't matter, just to prove how enlightened you are. And that's exactly why so many people resist it. They think detachment means lowering their standards or pretending not to want what they deeply do. They fear that letting go means losing the dream. But real detachment has nothing to do with indifference, and everything to do with inner freedom. To detach doesn't mean you stop wanting. It means you stop clinging. It's not the absence of desire. It's the absence of desperation. It's the difference between holding your vision with open hands versus gripping it so tightly that you choke the life out of it. Desire is not the enemy. Desire is beautiful. Desire is sacred. It's the spark that reminds you you're alive, creative, and capable of becoming more. But when desire crosses the line and starts to define your worth, when your identity becomes tangled in the outcome, when your sense of peace is held hostage by whether or not it happens, that's no longer desire. That's fear disguised as ambition. And fear is the one frequency that always scrambles the signal. When you're attached, your energy shifts. Suddenly, what once inspired you now feels heavy. You start scanning for signs, obsessing over timelines, and micromanaging every move. You overthink. You overreact. You grip tighter, and wonder why things still won't move. Here's why. The universe doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to presence. Detachment is the release of that pressure. It's the decision to stop forcing your desires to prove your worth. It's trusting that your value isn't up for negotiation, even when your vision hasn't arrived yet. When you detach, you don't stop showing up. You stop showing up from lack. You take action not to chase, but to align. You speak your truth not to control, but to express. You dream not to escape your life, but to elevate it. That's not indifference. That's emotional maturity. Detachment means, I still want this, but I no longer need it to feel whole. I believe in this vision, but I don't need to prove it into existence. I trust what's mine will come, and if it doesn't, it wasn't meant to be mine in the first place. That level of trust changes everything. It frees your nervous system. It clears your energy. And suddenly, what you were chasing begins to chase you. This is why the things we obsess over often avoid us. Not because we don't deserve them, but because obsession creates resistance, and resistance blocks reception. When you relax, the tension dissolves. And with that softness comes flow. You stop trying to pry open doors and realize the right ones were never locked to begin with. Letting go isn't giving up, it's stepping out of the way. It's saying to life, I'm open, I'm ready, and I trust you to bring this in the best way, not just my way. This is where manifestation becomes effortless. Because instead of trying to control every outcome, you start focusing on staying in alignment with your worth, your truth, your peace. When you're in that state, delays don't shake you. Silence doesn't scare you. You don't spiral at every turn or question your worth when things don't unfold on cue. You're steady. You're still. You're anchored, not in the outcome, but in yourself. And here's the twist. When you stop needing the dream to feel safe, you become the version of you who can finally hold it when it arrives. You're no longer vibrating from lack. You're radiating from wholeness. And wholeness is the most magnetic energy there is. This doesn't mean passion disappears. It means your passion is purified, no longer fueled by panic or a fear of not being enough. It becomes grounded, graceful, and deeply attractive. You stop moving from urgency. You start moving from inspiration. You stop forcing. You start allowing. And life responds. This is why letting go often brings results faster than all the hustling in the world. Because the moment your energy becomes light again, open again, trusting again, the things you desire finally have space to arrive. And when they do, it won't feel like a miracle. It'll feel natural, expected, aligned. Because it didn't come to fix you, it came to join you. And you were already whole. Detachment doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means your dream no longer owns you. It doesn't mean you settle. It means you've risen into a version of yourself that no longer depends on outcomes to feel worthy. That's not indifference. That's the highest form of care. It's the care that comes from knowing, what's meant for me can't miss me. What's not meant for me can't stay. And I am safe either way. Chapter 5, Ego versus Ease. Why forcing blocks what's already yours. There's a voice in your head that hates uncertainty. It wants answers now. It wants a plan. It wants the outcome yesterday. That voice, it's not your intuition, it's your ego. The ego loves predictability. It finds comfort in what it can measure, control, and explain. And whenever you decide to grow, to ask for more, to dream a little bigger, to believe before seeing, the ego starts to panic. It doesn't trust the invisible. It doesn't understand surrender. It only knows how to grip tightly and demand outcomes as proof of worth. But here's the problem. The tighter the ego holds, the harder everything becomes. You start checking the clock on your manifestations. You interpret delays as danger signs. You overthink every move, convinced that if you don't do more, you'll lose everything. Suddenly, what was meant to be a joyful journey becomes a tense negotiation with the universe. This is the ego's trap, the illusion that if you just push harder, stress more, or stay on high alert, you'll stay in control. But real creation doesn't come from control. It comes from alignment. And alignment doesn't scream, rush, or force. It whispers. It flows. It trusts. Your ego sees success as a trophy, something to chase, capture, and show off. But your soul sees success as a reflection, a mirror of who you've become. That's why your most powerful manifestations don't arrive when you're gritting your teeth. They show up when you're grounded in peace. When you've stopped needing the outcome to feel okay. When you've stopped tying your self-worth to whether things happen on your schedule. The ego's biggest fear is losing control. But control was never your job. Your job is alignment, becoming the version of yourself who naturally expects, calmly allows, and quietly trusts that what's meant for you cannot miss you. Now, this doesn't mean you stop showing up. It doesn't mean you sit back and wait for life to hand you your dream like a delivery. It means your actions stop being driven by fear. You no longer act from the energy of, if this doesn't happen, I'll fall apart. You act from the energy of this or something better is already making its way to me. That energy, steady, calm, unshaken, is magnetic. The ego may resist it. It will tell you to panic when things feel still. It'll nudge you to micromanage your path, to question your timing, to compare your pace. But now you know better. You can feel the difference between acting from pressure and acting from presence. Between chasing a result and living like it's already yours. Between begging for the outcome and embodying the version of you who receives it naturally. The shift is subtle, but the results are dramatic. When your peace no longer depends on what happens next, you reclaim your power. You're no longer a puppet of your progress. You're the creator, not the chaser. And in that state, life begins to respond. Not because you forced it, but because you finally got out of the way. Chapter 6, Room to Receive, How Space Unlocks the Flow of Manifestation. Manifestation doesn't begin with a wish. It begins with space. Before anything meaningful can enter your life, you must first make room for it. Not just in your schedule or your surroundings, but in your energy, your beliefs, and your identity. You can dream, journal, and visualize all day long. But if your life is already overflowing with chaos, fear, or outdated patterns, your desires have nowhere to land. They're circling, waiting, not because you're unworthy, but because you're full. That's what energetic availability means, clearing internal and external space so what you want can actually fit. Think of your life like a house. If every room is filled with clutter, old emotions, limiting beliefs, toxic relationships, then even the most beautiful new thing can't find a place inside. It's not a rejection. It's not punishment. It's just physics. There's no open door. This is why so many people stay stuck in cycles of almost manifestation. They want love, but they're still holding on to heartbreak. They want peace, but their minds are full of noise. They want abundance, but their calendars are packed with draining commitments that leave no time for expansion. Desire alone is never enough. Desire is the spark, but space is the invitation. Making space doesn't always look profound. Sometimes it's quiet and unglamorous. Saying no to a draining friendship, canceling the plans that no longer feel aligned, or simply taking a weekend to be still. Other times, it means releasing beliefs that have shaped your entire identity. Letting go of the story that says love must be earned, or that wealth is hard, or that rest is laziness. Each release, no matter how small, creates room for something new to take root. And yes, this part can feel uncomfortable, because the ego is terrified of empty space. It mistakes release for loss. It clings to the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. But your soul knows better. Your soul understands that space is not emptiness, it's readiness. It's the clear signal that you're no longer tolerating what drains you. It's proof that you trust in something better, even if it hasn't arrived yet. This is why detachment is so powerful. Not because it's passive, but because it tells the universe, I trust. I'm open. I've prepared my life to hold what I've asked for. Energetic availability isn't about doing more. It's about carrying less. It's about checking in with yourself and asking, do I have the capacity to receive what I want? Do I have the mental space, emotional bandwidth, and spiritual alignment to support it once it arrives? Because if not, the manifestation won't feel like a blessing. It'll feel like a burden. And unconsciously, you'll push it away. Creating space is also about boundaries. Every time you choose peace over chaos, stillness over noise, and truth over people-pleasing, you're sending a powerful message to life itself. I'm available for more. I'm willing to release what doesn't serve so I can hold what truly does. This is the inner work most people skip, and it's exactly why they stay stuck in waiting mode. They want the reward without changing the container. They keep planting seeds in soil that hasn't been cleared. But you're learning how to clear the garden. You're not forcing anything to bloom. You're preparing the ground so when the harvest comes, it has somewhere to grow. Sometimes, making space means saying no to something almost good, because you believe in what's meant for you. Sometimes it means sitting in stillness, not because you're empty, but because you're expanding. You're becoming someone who can hold more love, more peace, more abundance, without fear that it will slip away. That version of you doesn't need to cling. They simply receive because their energy is no longer scattered. It's aligned. And in that alignment, the universe delivers. Not because you begged, not because you proved, but because you were finally available. Chapter 7, The Silent Signal, How Expectation Speaks Louder Than Words. There's a silent voice inside you that shapes everything you attract. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It simply knows. That voice is called expectation, and it's one of the most underestimated forces in the entire process of manifestation. Desire gets all the attention. It's loud. It's exciting. It says, I want this. But expectation is quieter, more subtle, yet infinitely more powerful. It doesn't just want. It assumes. It's not about saying, I hope this works. It's about embodying the quiet, steady truth that it already is. And here's the key. The universe doesn't respond to your loudest words, it responds to your dominant energy. You might declare abundance, speak affirmations, write intentions, and visualize every day. But if deep down you're still expecting things to fall apart, that expectation wins. Why? Because expectation is the frequency beneath your efforts. It's the current that carries your desire forward or pulls it out of reach. Take a look around your life right now. What are you consistently experiencing? Are opportunities flowing or stalling? Are your relationships expanding or repeating old patterns? These aren't random. They're mirrors, reflecting what you quietly expect, not what you wish for. You might not say it out loud, but if your nervous system is braced for disappointment, if your thoughts default to, "it probably won't happen," then that's the expectation your energy is broadcasting. Expectation isn't a sentence. It's a state. It lives in your body, in how you breathe when something is delayed, in how you move through uncertainty, in how you prepare for what you say you want. You can't fake true expectation. It doesn't live in your journal. It lives in your posture, your presence, and the emotional baseline you've trained yourself to hold. The good news: expectation is a skill. It can be practiced, shaped, and completely transformed. And the process begins with awareness. Start asking yourself, when I imagine things going well, do I feel calm or anxious? When something takes time, do I panic or stay grounded? When nothing seems to be moving, do I spiral or do I stay open? Your answers will tell you everything you need to know. Because true expectation isn't about knowing the outcome. It's about trusting who you are becoming. You're not training your mind to control everything. You're training your body to feel safe, even when things are unclear. And that kind of trust rewires everything. Expectation isn't entitlement. It's not about thinking you're owed something. It's about believing, with full humility, that the life you're building is aligned, and that aligned lives receive. Entitlement says, I better get what I want or else. Expectation says, I'm ready to receive what's already on its way. The difference: one is rooted in fear, the other in faith. As you build this new version of expectation, you'll start showing up differently. You won't need to beg for signs. You'll stop micromanaging every detail. You won't fall apart at every delay. You'll stop interpreting silence as rejection. Instead, you'll lean back. You'll listen. You'll breathe into the space between desire and arrival. You'll know, in your bones, that life is rearranging behind the scenes. And when it comes, you'll recognize it, not with shock, but with certainty, because you've already been living in alignment with it. That's the beauty of true expectation. It's never performative. It doesn't try to impress the universe. It doesn't need constant hype or proof. It knows, and that knowing becomes your most magnetic power. Chapter 8. The Art of Surrender. Holding on without holding tight. There's a quiet strength in letting go, but for many, it feels like quitting, like giving up the dream, like closing a door too soon. And that's where the misunderstanding begins. Letting go is not about walking away from what you want. It's about releasing the grip on how, when, and in what exact form it arrives. It's not defeat. It's not indifference. It's trust in yourself, in the timing, and in the path that unfolds even when it's not going according to plan. To give up is to lose hope, but to let go is to release the pressure while keeping the vision alive. See, giving up comes from burnout, from fear, from feeling like the effort isn't worth it anymore. It shuts the door. It shuts you down. But letting go is completely different. It's conscious. It's choosing to stop forcing, stop controlling, and start allowing. Letting go is saying, I'm still moving forward. I still believe in what I want, but I'm not going to chase it like my life depends on it. Because it doesn't. You don't need to suffer, hustle, or beg to prove you're worthy of something. That's not alignment. That's attachment. And attachment isn't love. It's fear wearing a costume. It says, I need this to happen or I won't feel okay. But life doesn't respond to neediness. It responds to clarity. It responds to peace. That's why letting go is an energetic upgrade. You go from clinging to trusting, from forcing to flowing. It's not passive. It's power reimagined. It's the moment you stop saying, why hasn't it happened yet? And start saying, I'm open to receive this, in whatever way is right and in whatever time is best. And yes, that can feel uncomfortable, especially if you were raised to equate control with safety. If you've ever lived in survival mode, surrender can feel risky. But the truth is, real safety lives in your own presence. in your ability to stand grounded even when life is uncertain. That's where true letting go begins, not with giving up, but with giving space. Space for your dreams to breathe. Space for life to deliver what you couldn't plan. Space for yourself to rest between the efforts. Because maybe, just maybe, what you want is already lined up for you. And the only thing delaying it is the energy of trying to grip it too tightly. Letting go means you're no longer in emotional debt to an outcome. You're no longer saying, I'll be happy when. You're saying, I'm at peace now, and that makes me ready. Ironically, this is the moment when things finally begin to shift. Not because you gave up, but because you stepped aside and let the magic move. You stopped resisting. You stopped controlling. And life started to meet you there. Letting go also means loosening your attachment to your specific picture of how things should look. Because sometimes, what you want doesn't show up how you imagined. It shows up better. And if you're too busy gripping your original plan, you might miss it. So letting go isn't about shrinking your vision. It's about surrendering your script and trusting the rewrite. It's about allowing divine timing, not forcing your own. And let's be honest, that's hard. Especially when you've been doing the work, showing up, holding the vision. But control wears you out. Surrender lifts you up. You don't need to stop caring. You just need to stop carrying it like it's all on you. You can still want it. Still take inspired action. Still show up in faith. But do it with open hands, not clenched fists. Because that's the energy that magnetizes. Not grasping, not fear, but grounded presence, the kind that says, I'm not waiting for the outcome to validate me. I already know who I am. When you live from that space, you stop chasing. You start receiving. Letting go without giving up is an art. It's emotional maturity. It's the discipline of trust. Yes, doubt will visit. Yes, impatience will knock. But you don't have to invite them in. You just breathe, recenter, and remind yourself, you're not behind. You're becoming. Each time you soften your grip, you return to your power. And the more you live this way, the more life moves in your favor. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're finally aligned with it. Chapter 9, Staying Aligned. How to protect your energy and anchor your power. Manifestation doesn't just start with clarity. It stays alive through consistency. That's the part no one talks about. You don't just align once and then coast. You align and keep aligning, especially on the days when life throws curveballs. This is where two silent superpowers come in: emotional discipline and energetic hygiene. They might sound clinical, but they're the secret glue that holds your transformation together. Because you can have the clearest intentions and the boldest vision, but if your energy is scattered, reactive, or constantly hijacked by your environment, you'll keep starting over again and again. Let's break it down. Emotional discipline isn't about suppression. It's not about pretending you're fine when you're hurting or forcing a smile through disappointment. It's about awareness. The kind that says, I feel this emotion, but I don't become it. It's the ability to pause before you spiral, to observe your reactions instead of letting them run your day. Say you hit a delay. An opportunity falls through. A text doesn't come. A plan doesn't unfold the way you expected. Emotional discipline steps in and says, this doesn't define me. I get to choose how I respond. That space between stimulus and response, that's your power. And every time you choose calm over chaos, grace over grasping, you're reinforcing your energetic foundation. But most people live the other way. They ride the emotional roller coaster of outcomes. Up when things go right, down when they don't. Their energy swings, and so do their manifestations. You can't hold the frequency of your desires if your nervous system is always on edge. You need emotional steadiness, not perfection, but presence. This is how you anchor your power, by staying grounded while things are still unfolding. Now let's talk about energetic hygiene. Just like you clean your body and your home, you have to clean your field. Because energy is sticky. And if you're not intentional about what you let in, you'll end up carrying emotions that don't even belong to you. Ask yourself, are you anxious, or are you just absorbing everyone else's anxiety? Are you overwhelmed, or are you trying to manage emotions that aren't yours? Energetic hygiene means protecting your peace on purpose. It means being selective with what you consume, what you watch, who you follow, what conversations you entertain. It means having boundaries, not as walls, but as filters. Not everyone gets access to your focus, your energy, your inner world. You don't have to join every debate. You don't have to stay available to everyone all the time. You don't have to carry guilt for choosing your sanity. When your energy is clean, your life feels lighter. Your intuition sharpens. Your body feels safer. And manifestation flows more naturally because you're no longer weighed down by energetic noise. But energetic hygiene also means making space to unplug. We live in a world that worships the hustle, that never stops buzzing. But alignment speaks in whispers. And if you're always scrolling, always rushing, always filling your time, you'll miss it. So yes, rest. Yes, silence. Yes, pause. That's not laziness. That's leadership over your own field. In those still moments, you get to recalibrate. You get to ask, is this mine to carry? Is this aligned with where I'm going? Does this pull me back or move me forward? When you live this way, clear, grounded, intentional, you stop leaking energy. You stop defaulting to old emotional habits. You stop swinging between doubt and desire. Instead, you become steady. You become stable. You become magnetic. Because manifestation doesn't respond to frantic effort. It responds to energetic clarity. Chapter 10, Open Hands, Full Heart, the Power of Receiving. We spend so much time sending our energy outward, asking, wishing, planning, visualizing. But here's the hidden truth. Manifestation doesn't finish when you set your intention. It finishes when you receive. Receiving is where most people get stuck. Not because they don't want it badly enough, but because they haven't learned how to let it in. They stay in hustle mode, checking boxes, repeating affirmations, staying busy so they feel like they're doing something. But the most powerful shift is learning to stop gripping. True receiving doesn't come from effort. It comes from energetic openness. A clear space in your life, your body, and your mindset where what you asked for can actually land. Let's be real, most people want the outcome, but don't feel safe holding it. Wanting something and being ready for it are two very different things. You say you want abundance, but part of you is still scared of being seen. You say you want love, but deep down, you're bracing for heartbreak. You say you want freedom, but you keep overcommitting to things that drain you. Receiving asks something deeper of you. It asks you to become the version of yourself who feels at home with what you desire. That requires clearing out the emotional clutter, the doubt, the guilt, the belief that you have to struggle for everything. Because the truth is, when you believe something good must be earned through pain, you block the very ease you crave. Being in receiving mode means you stop overthinking your worth and start trusting your readiness. It means leaving space in your day and in your spirit so that the life you're calling in has somewhere to go. It means learning to say yes to small joys now, so the big blessings don't feel foreign when they arrive. It means practicing receiving every single day, a compliment without deflecting, help without guilt, rest without shame. Every time you say yes to that kind of support, you're retraining your body to feel safe in expansion. Because receiving doesn't just happen when the big thing shows up. It happens in how you carry yourself long before it does. Stillness is often your strongest signal. Not the doing, not the fixing, not the proving. Just showing up with calm, open hands and a heart that whispers, I'm ready now. You're not waiting anymore. You're welcoming. You're not begging. You're aligning. You're not trying to chase what's yours. You're clearing the path for it to walk right in. And that's the ultimate magnetism, being someone who no longer doubts if they deserve it, but simply makes space because they know it's already on its way. Chapter 11, The Effortless Pull, Why Alignment Beats the Hustle. There's a kind of effort that looks productive on the outside, but quietly drains your soul. It's the kind of striving born not from passion, but from panic. A frantic chase to prove your worth, earn your value, or force something into existence before it slips through your fingers. And while our culture might celebrate this grind as ambition, most of the time, it's anxiety in disguise. We're told that the harder we push, the more we'll receive. But here's the truth most people miss. True manifestation isn't a reward for exhaustion. It's a response to alignment. Effort isn't the villain here. Taking action is necessary. This isn't about waiting for life to hand you everything on a silver platter. But there's a massive difference between aligned action and desperate doing. One feels like flow. The other feels like friction. Magnetism doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It doesn't sprint in 1,000 directions trying to be enough. Magnetism whispers, I'm already enough, and lets the world respond accordingly. You've felt it before. That person who walks into a room and doesn't have to speak a word to be felt. It's not about how loud they are or how much they do. It's about how deeply they own who they are. Their energy speaks louder than any resume or strategy ever could. That's the power of inner alignment. That's where attraction begins. See, most people think manifestation is a reward for constant motion. But it's not about how hard you push, it's about how clearly you resonate. When you take action from lack, everything feels heavier. You're trying to fill an inner void with outer outcomes. But when you act from alignment, from knowing, from peace, your steps become lighter, more effective, more magnetic. This shift is subtle but powerful. You stop trying to make things happen and start allowing them to unfold. You stop chasing approval and start embodying truth. You stop rushing against time and start trusting divine timing. That's not passivity. That's energetic mastery. Let's be real. Slowing down can feel scary, especially if you've been taught that your worth lives in your output. But there's a rare kind of strength in stillness. It says, I'm not performing for my desires. I'm preparing to receive them. That space, that quiet confidence, is where the universe listens most clearly. When your energy is scattered, your signal gets lost. But when your thoughts, emotions, and actions speak the same language, you become undeniable. That's magnetic alignment, and it's a skill you build, not a moment you wait for. You build it every time you pause instead of panic. Every time you choose rest over hustle. Every time you act from clarity instead of urgency. That's when you begin to notice something strange and beautiful. You're not chasing anymore, yet what you want starts moving toward you. This doesn't mean life won't ask you to show up. It will. But now you're moving from power, not pressure. You're not forcing timelines, proving your value, or bending yourself into burnout to keep momentum alive. You're grounded, clear, magnetic. You're the calm in the storm, not the storm itself. And when delays happen, and they will, you don't crumble. You don't spiral into fear. You anchor deeper. You remind yourself that what's meant for you doesn't require convincing. It requires coherence. That coherence, the match between your thoughts, your energy, and your action, is where real momentum lives. You're no longer acting for a result. You're acting from a state of knowing. And that knowing? That's the signal the universe trusts most. You don't hustle for what's already yours. You align. You breathe. You receive. Chapter 12, The Control Trap. Why Surrender Sets You Free. There's a strange comfort in control. It gives you the illusion that if you plan enough, manage well, and stay 2 steps ahead, nothing can go wrong. It promises protection from disappointment, from chaos, from life's messiness. But here's the truth we often learn the hard way. Control isn't safety, it's strain. Trying to grip every outcome with white knuckles doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. It creates a constant tension in your body, in your thoughts, in your energy. You're always bracing, always managing, always preparing for what could go wrong. And in that effort to avoid uncertainty, you start to push away the very things you want to receive. Control tells you that if you just think hard enough, do more, stay in charge, you'll finally feel at peace. But peace doesn't come from predicting every step. It comes from presence. You've probably felt it yourself. The more tightly you try to control life, the more life resists. Plans fall apart. Doors close. The pressure builds. And it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because you're doing it all. Control creates friction. Surrender creates flow. Now, don't get this confused. Surrender isn't weakness. It's not giving up on your goals or abandoning your vision. It's releasing the belief that you have to control every detail in order to get there. There's a difference between being responsible and being rigid. Responsibility is grounded. It's about showing up for your energy, your values, your boundaries. Control, on the other hand, is fueled by fear. It says, if I don't force this, it won't happen. If I don't grip tightly, I'll lose it. But here's the secret. You can't receive with clenched fists. You can't hear your intuition when your mind is busy calculating every possible outcome. You can't attract flow while you're obsessing over how to hold everything together. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you trust enough to allow. It means you soften your grip. You stop micromanaging the timing, the form, the people. You stop needing guarantees and start making space for guidance. You start listening more than forcing. You move with life rather than against it. And yes, this can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if control became your safety net. Maybe life once felt unstable, and controlling things helped you survive. That was valid, but it won't help you thrive. You can't create expansion while operating from contraction. Letting go is not about laziness. It's about trust. Trust that what's meant for you won't need to be chased, controlled, or coerced. It will align. It will unfold. And it will often show up in ways far better than you imagined, once you stop interfering. It's ironic, isn't it? The more you surrender, the more clearly you see. Clarity doesn't come from control. It comes from stillness. When you finally step back, breathe, and allow space for something higher to guide you, life begins to move. Opportunities appear. Conversations shift. Doors you never knocked on start to open. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped carrying what was never yours to control. Let go of the need to know every step. Let go of the fear that everything will fall apart without your constant effort. Let go of the belief that control is what makes you powerful. Because your true power is your clarity, your presence, and your faith in what you can't yet see. Control might feel safe. But surrender? Surrender is where life begins. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Detach to Attract. You become what you quietly expect. Remember, you don't manifest what you force. You attract what you believe, what you expect, and what you're willing to release. The real magic begins when you stop chasing and start aligning. If this audiobook sparked a shift within you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to Book Library, because your next transformation is just one chapter away.